This video is going to be an interesting video because we're going to talk about the world of other smells, other aromas, other notes. These are very interesting aromas that we have the tendency to encounter in wines, but to which we cannot really give a huge definition. We cannot really put them in a group 100%. Of course, they have their groups. I'm going to talk about them. But I like to think of these aromas in this big other group. And here, I personally made 3 subgroups that really guide me well. The first subgroup is this creamy, buttery aromas. Then we have this, in Italian we say etereo. In English, I think we could say medicinal notes, something that is related to more the objects that we use for makeup or for medicine, medicinal notes. And finally, we have the beautiful world of balsamic aromas in this entire description, in these entire aroma families. This is my favorite, absolute favorite group, balsamic aromas. When it comes to this buttery creamy world, you can think of cheese, you can think of butter, as the name suggests, cream. Then I also put here all this dough feeling, so the bread, the dough, the yeasty feelings, again the bread. You can think of croissant that has just gotten out of the oven, croissant from the boulangerie. That's also a thing you will encounter a lot in wine tastings. From champagne, you will get this. You will perceive some aromas of dough or croissant or bread, something doughy, something with yeasts also. Brioche, some pastry. Then you can think of honey, you know, buttery, creamy. It's not as much, but it has the same sensation, honey. You can also cite it here, honey. I understand that this medicinal group is a bit interesting, it's a bit awkward, but believe me, from some exceptional wines, you will get this feeling. It's a really, if the wine is healthy and if you perceive these notes from that wine, it can be a really big wine. You know, there are some instances where these interesting smells contribute to the quality of the wine. So here in this medicinal section, you can think about the dentist studio smell. It's a smell, I know you know the smell, the dentist studio smell. Of course, this is not the most elegant descriptor and it's not that common that you're going to use it. But once you identify it, use it. Fingernail polish, you know the smell, fingernail polish, nail varnish smell. It is really medicinal. It's a very peculiar smell. You can think about pharmacy smells. You can think about any chemical product you know, as long as you can identify the smell and talk about that product, you can cite it here. Or you could say simply some medicinal notes. Generally, it's not that elegant, it's not that acceptable just to give the name of the group, of the family, like floral aromas. No, you should say at least red flower aromas, white flower aromas. But when it comes to medicinal group, I guess it causes a lot of problems for most of the people and they're not common. So you're free also to say, I noticed some medicinal notes slightly in the end. Maybe such a sentence can go well. Now comes my favorite aroma group, which is the balsamic aromas. Italians love talking about balsamic aromas. Please learn some of these examples. They can really enrich your explanations. These are very refreshing, sharp, deep, and even mysterious aromas. My personal thought is that they add really a mysterious layer, a very complex layer to the overall aroma world of the wine. The easiest way to explain these aromas is that they present some sort of a mentholated profile, mentholated tone. Eucalyptus, for example, it's one of the classical examples of balsamic notes. That's why on purpose I didn't think about eucalyptus when we were presenting some herbal aromas. I like keeping eucalyptus here to the balsamic notes. From all of the balsamic notes, you're going to perceive some of these sharp sensations, some of these mentholated, as I said, sensations. Wines with balsamic aromas present a bouquet enriched with resinous notes. These are resinous aromas, balsamic aromas. If I'm poetic enough, I can think about a refreshing sensation that will take you to pine trees. You know, in pine trees, there is this refreshing smell. These are balsamic aromas. No, it's not about the balsamic vinegar. I say it beforehand. The balsamic group presents all of the characteristics that I've just talked about. It's a bit wooden, it's a bit spicy, but it's not those either. It's this refreshing, sharp, mentholated layer that some of the beautiful wines present. Eucalyptus is the first descriptor. What else? You can think of menthol, mint, some mentholated compounds. Juniper, if you know, juniper has this typical balsamic note. Similar to juniper, you can think of pines. You know, as I just said, the pine feeling, the piney sensation is also balsamic. Sandalwood, The anise, the starred anise, can also be considered in this group, but I guess the typical thing you need to know once you perceive such a thing is eucalyptus. I'm sure you're gonna thank me for mentioning even balsamic aromas. This is not something you can find, you can hear that often, but I guess this is something that should really be part of your aroma world. Of course, once again, it's not a certain rule. You can consider balsamic aromas, medicinal aromas, and the buttery creamy aromas as different families, but not to overcomplicate, because remember what I told you in the beginning, when I smell the wine, the first thing that I do is to make my vehicle function, to think about all of these family groups immediately, so my brain immediately works. Like, is it floral? Is it fruity? Is it spicy? Is it vegetative? Is it dried fruits? Is it toasted? If I increment the number of families, it's never gonna end, so maybe I'm gonna miss something. So I like to say 4 for 1. The main 4 components for me are fruits, flowers, then comes spices and herbs, then comes vegetables and earthy notes. That's my first 4. Then the other 4 for me is the minerals, the dried fruits, the toasted notes, the animal notes, and in the end, I consider all of these big groups of other aromas. That's my 4 for 1 approach. I consider you to follow this thought. You can also maybe play around it, but it's not going to change the fact that when you analyze the wine, you should always think about in terms of the families.